Welcome back. This is Lindsey Haeger, the host of the Peacemakers podcast. You're listening to episode 6, which is part 2 of my interview with Joel Hubbard. If you haven't yet listened to part 1 in episode 5, please stop and go back to catch that one first. Joel is the co-host of the Art of Growth podcast, and over a month ago now, I spoke with him about a Type 9 panel that he hosted from season 2 of the Art of Growth. And I just received so much value from that episode, and I wanted to go deeper into that episode with him. So I'm really excited to share this second half of our talk with you today, and I just love so much the hope and the encouragement that he's bringing to the Type 9 through his word. I also just wanted to thank all of you that have left me a review through Apple Podcast reviews for the podcast and have given me feedback through social media and through emails. I read all of the comments in the reviews, and I have just been really encouraged by what you've had to say, and I'm thankful for some ideas that some of you all have given me that you're wanting to hear on the show. So keep the ideas and the reviews coming, and I'll do my best to dig into some of those topics that you're asking for. All right, guys, let's jump into part 2 of this interview with Joel Hubbard. I want to ask about the 9 editing the 9 self. So you mentioned that, the episode 2 that I have a crush on, and that I'm telling everyone about. You mentioned that the 9 edits the 9 self. Is that something that people are able to get past? I feel like that's such a way that my brain works, because 9s have like this intuitive sense about people, or maybe we can kind of see all the sides of an issue. I'm editing myself as I'm talking to people. As 9s are growing, as you're working with others, and what would your advice be? Is it just like slowing yourself down? Is it through meditation that you're learning that to just be present in the moment? What does that look like?
So certainly there's a lot to it, and this is coaching is why I do coaching, is because there's so much to dig into that is a whole bodied approach to transformation. But the editing of the self, I'll give you a few tips, a few ways to do this in general. So when the context is one in which there's a group of people, or it's a one-on-one, either way, depending upon the context, depending upon the situation, you can take a moment, a quick breath. Now, I do this, by the way, for all types. The breath is incredibly important as part of the transformation process. Now, this isn't woo-hoo stuff. This is neurobiology. Your anxiety, your body's nervous system is always going, and for every type, there's a measure of sort of anxiety as you face the world. There's a survival, a need to survive, a need to thrive, a need to make it in this world. And so we lean into our types naturally. The breath just allows you to slow down enough. That's all that it does. I mean, it does a whole lot more, but that's the main purpose of why I'm talking about breathing as it relates to your type, is it gives you a chance to think. Viktor Frankl, this survivor of the Nazi Germany, a psychologist or psychiatrist, his book, Man's Search for Meaning, what a great book. I recommend that for every single person who's into personal growth. Real short book, profound. But it's his documentation of survivors of Nazi Germany. And one of the things that he says is that this has become popular in modern psychology, is that there's this stimulus and response sort of effect with all of us. We have a stimulus, and then we respond immediately to that stimulus without thought. And there is a space between stimulus and response, and that's where thought comes in. And so that's where I insert the breath. Like, there's a stimulus happening for the 9 right now. What's happening? Can you tune into your body? Can you notice it? That's the place you'll notice it first. What's happening in your body at any given moment. So if you tune into your body's giving you lots of data, lots and lots of data. Tightness in the belly, sharp pain in the lower back. What's happening with my shoulders? Why are they up near my ears? What's happening with my neck? Why is it so tight? Why am I looking more up, or why am I looking more down? Or why? You start to pick up on not over analyzing, but just regular sort of chronic responses that your body gives over and over again in particular contexts. It's an indication of something. And so as a head type, mine locates itself generally in the stomach. So when I start to feel my stomach tighten up, I'm aware my type is about to just go on automatic pattern. It's a defense mechanism. There's anxiety located there. As a body type, body types may feel it in their back, or they might feel it in their jaw or their neck, or headaches.
Yeah, I definitely feel that in my neck.
Yeah, so neck is a common location for body types. So you notice that. What, my neck is tightening up. Okay, breathe into that. It's okay. You can thank you for holding the tension, neck. I appreciate that. And then deep breath in and down. And you may even have to say, again, it's very context specific. The CEO will come to me and say, here's what I need. Here's what I want, or I have this idea, or, and it's just all energy. And she says, I feel like I'm in that moment. It feels very much like a fire hydrant. It feels like I'm being overwhelmed by that. And I just say, yes, yes, yes. And I just sort of blankly respond that way. And she didn't want to continue doing that. So I said, in that context, here's something, and it's just a suggestion. Just, you have to understand, you have to honor your type. Okay. So again, notice it in your body, breathe, and then respond with something like, these are fantastic ideas, lots of things for me to think about. Could you give me, and this is where it's important for the 9 to do this, because the 9 can delay something inevitably. So instead of just like, can you give me an hour? Can you give, or can you give me some time? Instead of just a general like that, it's, can you give me till this time, tomorrow at noon? I will definitely have an answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's really time sensitive, can you give me 10 minutes? And then at that point, it's important for you to then go to the bathroom, go outside, go somewhere to be away from. Because the problem with 9s is that it's not a problem, it's an advantage, but it turns into a problem, is the strength that you have is your capacity to pick up on lots of data, much more than I can, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you're picking up on all this agenda, all this information, all this data around you. And it's very difficult to then tune back into yourself. So you sort of have to pull away from all of that stimulation, all of that distraction. Get alone, and then ask yourself these 3 questions. What do I feel right now in this moment? What's my body telling me? What do I sense? What do I feel emotionally? What do I think? What do I want? And what's my intuition? I've started using this with a lot of clients. What's my intuition telling me? What's my gut telling me? And then you go back in, and then you'll be much better prepared. And that's the process of reversing the editing. Now, in other contexts, you might even be able to say, okay, with friends that you can be, real with, okay, I'm editing myself right now. So my real thought is this, right? So it's funny because I have a 9. He's a friend of mine. Love this guy dearly. He's known me over the years and known that I do this. I will rush him with an idea. Like, it's just the 7 way. I don't even think that I'm rushing anybody, but I'll come at him with, hey, I got a great idea. I think you're going to like this. Really, I think you're going to love this. And yeah, totally.
Just setting him up.
And he's just like, okay. And he looks at me so I run the idea by him, and he says, oh, yeah. And by yeah, I don't mean yes. And that was, I laughed and everybody around laughed. And because he totally knew, like, this is the 9. And in that moment, I realized that my yes answer is just a way to sort of not say anything and not get myself into any trouble. But it's a form of editing. And then when he said, by yeah, I don't mean yes, I mean, I'll think about it. And I was like, good. And I celebrated that with him. Excellent. That is fantastic progress for you to do that. Now, in that context, that's safe to do it. You can do that maybe in work context. It might be safe in some environments, but it's helpful to sometimes out yourself that way. Yeah, I'm editing myself. Let me come back to that. Even if you do that 24 hours later or a week later, when I said that, I definitely edited myself. So here's what I was really thinking. And you come back and do that. You can do that and have a second chance. And what that does is it again strengthens the side that you really want to strengthen, the self that you really want to bring forth to the front.
That it reminded me of something I wanted to say earlier. I'm seeing this a lot because prior to the past 2 years, I was working in a school as a school counselor. And so we had, just in my family system here with my husband and my daughter, we had kind of a flow of how we worked together. But we were finding ourselves, my husband and I were finding ourselves because of this particular situation happening through our work. It was just kind of overwhelming our household because of the stress that we were both under. And so just finding the way for me to be able to stay home and do something different, and changing that dynamic of that system we were living in, it's just changed our whole life. Like it's kind of like the coronavirus, like that we're all living in right now. We're all learning this new way of living, this new way of being together and showing up and kind of bumping into each other all the time. That's what we're doing here at my house anyway. And we're like, schedules are all off and everything's different. Our system's thrown up in the air, but it's like these neural pathways are being forced to change regardless of if we wanted it or not. So back to my, talking about quitting my job and staying home, it was really hard for a couple of months, really a whole semester, just figuring that new dynamic out. But once I let myself do that and move into a new role and a new direction, the fruit and the joy and kind of finding what I really want to do was what was waiting for me.
Awesome.
And I think that's what it sounds like you're saying, or we're saying, is that as we can push through these things that are hard, we're going to find the gold on the other side of that. Like just keep going, keep going. It's like we never even knew it was there. We maybe felt something was off, or we felt like I'm not really living into who I am. But if we only knew what was on the other side, we would be running to it.
Oh, absolutely. The whole thing of the type, and there's a lot of focus on the low side. And I've told my clients many times, the only reason why we're going to pay any attention to the challenges, the low side, is simply because it's keeping you from the high side. Because the high side really is the focus. And there's a gift to your type that the world desperately needs. And it's not just what you can do for it, but it's also what you can enjoy. Because whenever the fruit that you produce for the world is the fruit that you also eat. There's this back and forth that happens when you're flowing from the energy that comes from the good side, the high side of your type, the natural flow of energy. We constrict on our energy all the time. And when we relax into it, there's this greater abundance of life that's present within us, waiting to be given out into this world and waiting for us to enjoy the fullness of it. There's a beauty to the gift of the type 9. And that's the stuff I enjoy talking about and helping 9s achieve. And when they do, they're the ones who tell me, oh my goodness, this is incredible. I love this so much better. This is a better way of living. Yeah. It is. And then what's funny about it is they're not looking like it's not like the 9 goes, and this is where the Enneagram language it's difficult because it's exploded in America. So we have all kinds of sort of misinformation about the types and how they work. You don't become a 3. It's not about the 9 becoming more like a 3. That's not the goal. The goal is for the 9 to be fully the 9. The low side is what prevents you from being fully the 9. Now, it gives you a look that's become the stereotype, that's become the caricatures that are posted in memes all over Facebook and social media. But that's not the 9. That's an aspect of the 9, and it is low side, but you haven't caught the high side yet, and that should be put into memes.
Right.
That's really the type at its best. So that's the stuff we should be talking more about.
That's good.
Yeah,
I like that. Well, it's a little two-sided for me because here's me not editing myself with you. So I feel like I'm new into the Enneagram world. So ask me in 10 years, I may not say this. Ask me in 2 days, I may not say this. But I feel like there is, for those experts that have been in the field a long time and they know the Enneagram in and out, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, but there is kind of like a pushback from all of this social media popularization of the Enneagram and these memes and things that kind of give people a laugh or help people relate to themselves. I want people to move past that and see that they can grow and that there's more to this system. But I'm also so excited. I'm just like, oh, wow. These people are like, maybe for the first time, waking up to themselves.
Yes.
They're becoming like self-aware. I think about it like in grieving. Like I've had some big situations that I've, been through, that I've grieved, some deaths in my family and things like that. And it takes people sometimes a long time to grieve. And, maybe just through someone seeing a meme or someone seeing a quote or kind of feeling like they're being seen or known or like someone speaking to their experience, they may have to sit in that for a year before they're ready to move to the next step.
Very, very well said. Yes.
It's not that whenever people say we need to teach more than a meme or we need to teach more than a joke, I get that, but I just, I think that's what's brought me to the podcast is I want to like celebrate that we're discovering ourselves and like sit in that and allow ourselves to grieve and allow ourselves to know like we're showing up in the world the way we are through this pattern because of some deep hurts that have maybe happened over time and have been replayed, every day of our life since then. But this is what maybe just through an example of me living my life out and showing up, this is what it's looking like for me. And maybe, we can offer encouragement to others to do the same. I just love what you and Jim are doing. Like I want the art of growth. Like I want everyone to listen to every one of your episodes because you guys just have a way of bringing to life that growth. For me, being a Christian, being someone of faith, I believe this growth that you're pulling out is like the essence of God. When I'm getting excited about myself growing, when I'm listening to your podcast and getting excited about you guys pulling out these stories from people, I'm like, yes, that is divine. That's the divine thing that we're all seeking for. Part of me like wanting to talk to you about one of your episodes and all the inspiration that it brought me, part of me felt like I was starting to edit myself. I was like, don't do that. Come up with your own stuff. You need to be a leader in this and you need to like bring your own stuff to the table. But I'm like, they're bringing good stuff and I want to like more people to know the good stuff. And that's kind of the bottom line. So I just want to thank you for talking with me and for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is wonderful that you've said a couple of things that I think are so very important. In this work, it's neither a focus on or becoming hyper vigilant or hyper the mistakes we make, the failures that we have. And yet there is the right amount of looking at it and grieving it and recognize I had to do that. I had to look at my 7 and ask my wife, hey, does this description fit me? And for her to say, yeah, that's the person I've been living with for a long time. And for me to walk away from that and to feel a measure of shame. It wasn't the type of shame that is a destructive kind that leads me into self, like focusing even more on myself. It's the kind that led me to, wow, I've got to grab a hold of what the truth is here. And I don't like it, but this is the truth. And that was good. And I stayed in that for a while. Not long. It wasn't like every single day, but every once in a while I would look at it and realize, yeah, that's the truth. But then I was also able to embrace the high side and the gift. And what I perceived to be, I shouldn't be this way. I found out, no, actually that is what people want from me. And that was surprising to me. And I think that's true for all types, is that we work on things we shouldn't work on. And the things that we should work on, we're not working on, which is really the funny thing about all of us. And the people that love us most want to strangle us. Like, look, this is the stuff that I actually like about you. Stop trying to fix that, or stop trying to change this part of you. You're fine, but this part, yeah, we should change that.
Yeah, and
that's the part we don't really want to look at. And I think that using just a tiny bit of biblical scripture here is this completely pulled way beyond its contextual intention. But this is the Goliath that we have to face, or forever we'll be fighting the Philistines. You have to face your Goliath, and your Goliath is this the core vice, right, or the core sin of the type. And, for me, it was tough to face gluttony and to see just how much of a role it played in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was able to look at the joy of the type and think, I want to be even more joyful. But the path that I've often chosen to be joyful has been one that only led me to superficial happiness. And there's a deeper one that I can experience that's right here in this present moment. And for the 9, the sort of self-forgetting, that's the vice, the sloth, right? The sloth is the lack of right action, not the inactivity. Some people think of sloth as inactivity. It's not inactivity. It's just not doing the thing that you know that you should be doing, the right action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the vice of the 9, right? But then you're a peacemaker. You're one who creates harmony. You're one who creates comfort. Now, what if you could do that with greater intention? Not as a knee-jerk reaction to your own fear of disruption and disconnection, but as an intentional act. I'm here on planet Earth to do something amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to do with creating this space for people. I'm a space maker. Mm-hmm. I'm a way maker. I create paths. And I've talked to pastors about this who are type 9s. What if you could re-envision your role instead of looking like a 3, a 7, or an 8, which is the majority of pastors in America? What if you were to see yourself as one who made way and space for other people to emerge? What if you could actually create more space for God to show up in your gatherings because you can? Because you're not the anxious type that needs to fill the space with lots of talk. You're not the type that needs to assert an agenda because you've got to hit first before being hit. You've got to make sure that you're protecting yourself. But what if you didn't, because you don't struggle with a lot of things that more assertive types struggle with? What if you could see yourself in more and be more intentional rather than passive about it? Be intentional about slowing down a meeting where there's an assertive type that wants to take over. You say, that's fantastic. You have such great things to contribute. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow, so smart. Such great ideas. Can we just take a moment? Because I want to hear from others. Can we just take a moment? Because I'm sensing there's more here. There's more. There's somebody else who wants to contribute. There's great minds in this room. I just want to hear from others. What if you were to be more intentional about the fact that you are the type that tends to create a canvas on which others paint, and you're more deliberate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who's the true leader?
Mm-hmm.
Who's the true leader? This is what's so it drives me nuts as a head type when we get into these debates about what leadership means. I'm like, what does that have to do? It's type driven. Yeah. Any type can lead. It's just leading through the way you're made.
Right.
Rather than fighting it and trying to be something you're not. So.
Oof, that's good. We need to end on that note because my heart feels like it's on fire in the best of ways. And
awesome.
I know that other 9s, if other 9s are like me, which I think a lot of them are, they're listening, they're watching, they're reaching out to learn. And so I just want to, for those 9s that are listening to this, I just want to say, you're good.
Yes.
I just want to speak into your heart. You are good and you have something of value and keep doing it, keep pushing it. And,
yes.
And Joel, you just have such a gift for speaking life into people. And I just really appreciate you and Jim and what you guys are doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. This is a gift to me to be able to speak to 9s and those who love 9s. So thank you so much.
So what is resonating for you from this interview? I hear Joel giving us permission to show up as ourselves. For me, I've been trying to show up more as a type 3, which is an achiever. There is part of me that feels that driven energy, but I've really never been able to maintain that for any period of time. It's just very exhausting for me to stay in that driven space. He's given me permission to slow down to the pace that really my inner world has actually been wanting me to do and to slow down to all along. And I also love that space that he talks about us finding as type 9s. He says that space is there for us to breathe and to pause and to find a response that fits better with who we are. He's given so many little nuggets of wisdom, and I don't want any of us to miss those. And so I've compiled all of his little bits of wisdom and ideas and kind of hacks that he's given for the type 9. I've compiled all of those into a PDF, and you can find the download link for that down in the show notes. So guys, I just want all of us to keep seeking and keep getting curious, keep asking questions, and remember that sometimes we have to experience pain to get to the deep peace and balance in our lives that we're all searching for. If you haven't yet joined the free Peacemakers community over on Facebook, it is called Enneagram 9 Stories, and we would love to have you join the group that's just for 9s. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.